So it appears like everybody to this point has been assuming, well, we'll probably get something in regards to a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. The consensus was, well, we'll get some sort of middle ground package, anywhere from 1.5 trillion to 2.5 trillion. That's what everybody was casually assuming, everybody who's a political junkie who follows these things closely. But it appears like, honestly, even that is threatened at the moment. And it's threatened because the corporate Democrats, the right-wing Democrats, look like they may be willing to blow it all up if they don't strip the package of its most popular provisions. So, now you might be thinking, well, why is that? Do they have some sort of ideological principled position against, for example, universal pre-K or childcare or free community college? Well, if you think that, you'd be wrong. Now, every single mainstream media reporter happens to believe that, but for people who follow this seriously, we know that that's nonsense. So now, let me show you some information. We're going to run through it here. I got Sinema, and I got the House Democrats who are corrupt, and I'll give you the names of them later. And I also have Manchin here, so let's take a look at the first slide. David Schroeder reports, just in, a pharma bankrolled dark money group began airing ads promoting Senator Sinema just before Sinema issued a threat to kill Dems' drug pricing bill. Also, Sinema has now vacuumed in $500,000 from donors in the pharma/health products industry, threatening to kill it as soon as she's getting money from them and getting support from them. Dan Price says here, this is from The Guardian, a bill to lower prescription drug prices failed after opposition from three Dems. The three Dems got $1.6 million from drug companies. One is the House's largest recipient of drug donations, and one's ex-chief of staff is a drug company lobbyist. How's that for corruption? Now we have from The Intercept, this is on Joe Manchin. For decades, Manchin has profited from a series of coal companies that he founded during the 1980s. His son, Joe Manchin IV, has since assumed leadership roles in the firms, and the senator says his ownership is held in a blind trust. Yet between the time he joined the Senate and today, Manchin has personally grossed more than $4.5 million from those firms, according to financial disclosures. He also holds stock options in EnerSystems Inc., the larger of the two firms, valued between $1 and $5 million. Those two companies are EnerSystems Inc. and Farmington Resources Inc., the latter of which was created by the rapid merging of two other firms, Manchin's Transcon and Farmington Energy in 2005. EnerSystems purchases low-quality waste coal from mines and resells it to power plants as fuel, while Farmington Resources provides support activities for mining and holds coal reserves in the Fairmont area. Over the decades, whether feeding tens of thousands of tons of dirty waste coal into the power plants in northern West Virginia or subjecting workers to unsafe conditions, Manchin's family coal business has almost entirely avoided public scrutiny. So, I want to make this as simple for people as possible. Manchin is making millions of dollars off of fossil fuels. At the same time, he sits on the committee that's going to decide what we do with energy and climate change in the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. This is such a conflict of interest, you need to come up with a new term to describe how bad this conflict of interest is. He directly profits from dirty energy and fossil fuels. So do you think this guy is really going to make the decisions that would negatively impact his own companies, but also happen to move us in the correct direction when it comes to climate change and when it comes to pollution? There's no way he's going to do that. There's no way he's going to be taking hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars out of his own pocket, and he's going to take it away from his family. Obviously, he's not going to do it. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about the the 3 Democrats in the House, because again, 3 Democrats alone got $1.6 million from drug companies. One is the House's largest recipient of drug donations, and one's ex-chief of staff is a drug company lobbyist. They're so cozy with industry, and they're the ones who are saying, no, I'm not going to vote for a bill that has a reduction of drug prices. Now, we have the highest drug prices in the world, by far. And this is an issue that 80% of Americans agree with, to lower drug prices, of course. And they're saying, no, I won't do it. So the names, Kurt Schrader of Oregon, Scott Peters of California, and Kathleen Rice of New York. These are the representatives of Big Pharma in the House of Representatives. They're the worst of the worst. Now, just to put this in perspective for you, how bad it is, how much progress they're blocking. The Congressional Budget Office said the drug pricing legislation, which, by the way, is named after Representative Elijah Cummings of Maryland, it would save the government $456 billion, and it would reduce drug prices by, get this, I hope you're sitting down, 57% to 75% relative to current prices. So in other words, there are many people who would no longer have to ration their medicine. We no longer have senior citizens who have to cut their pills in half if we got this through in the $3.5 trillion package. These Democrats are saying, no, I will not vote for a bill that cuts drug prices. In fact, I don't want to cut drug prices at all. And then you saw, when it comes to Kyrsten Sinema, she is taking $500,000 from donors in Big Pharma as she's telling Joe Biden, I'm against lowering drug prices. Sinema had the nerve, and she did this with a $15 minimum wage too. There are times, you can go back and pull up the tweets. There are times she casually tweeted about, I'm lowering drug prices for Arizonans. Or I'm in favor of higher wages. She kills the $15 minimum wage. She's against that. And she kills a reduction in drug prices. So here's the thing. I'm struggling to get my mind around this. I really am. My default assumption when dealing with other human beings, and maybe I'm too naive, maybe I'm too nice, maybe my view of human nature is a little bit too positive, but I generally assume the best. So in other words, I take people at face value. I take you at your word. If you say you believe X, I think you believe X. That's generally my position. Now, if there's overwhelming evidence in the contrary position, then, okay, I'll change my mind, and I will judge you, and I will judge your motivations, and I will judge your intentions. But it's very rare that I have to go to the level of I'm questioning your intentions and your motivations. Usually I take people at face value. I think they're generally honest about what their positions are on stuff and why they do the things they do. I cannot, for the life of me, think that they don't know that they're comic book villains right now. Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, the 3 Democrats in the House, Kurt Schrader, Scott Peters, Kathleen Rice, they're willing to blow up the entire bill if we don't strip the best provisions out of the bill. Another article, by the way, said they're against universal pre-K and free college as well. That the so-called moderate Democrats, and we'll get to that later, they shouldn't be called moderate Democrats, they're saying, well, we have to get that out because that's the only way you'll get my support, is if you get that out. So in other words, they take like the best provisions of the bill that poll the highest and like, we got to get rid of that. We got to get rid of that. I don't know how you can take, in the case of Manchin, you have millions of dollars because of the fossil fuel companies, the dirty energy companies. I don't know how you can look at that conflict of interest, personally profit from it, and not realize you're a comic book villain. Because everybody knows how bad climate change is now. It's right in front of our eyes. It's the most obvious it's ever been. Things are terrible. We have to address it. And this is our only chance at addressing it seriously. Democrats probably going to get wiped out in the midterms. Who knows the next time that we're going to have Democrats control House, Senate, and presidency. So this is our last attempt for what? At least a decade. And things are going, marching in the wrong direction very quickly now. So our last shot at it, and he's willing to blow it up to personally continue to profit. How do you look at yourself in the mirror? How do you put your head down on your pillow at night and you're fine and you can just go to sleep like you're doing nothing wrong? Kyrsten Sinema, how do you take $500,000 from Big Pharma and say, I'm against cutting drug prices, and look at yourself in the mirror and say, oh, I'm doing the right thing? In other words, I don't think they can even lie to themselves about their actions here. I don't think they could say, well, I'm the moderate, I'm the centrist, I'm the reasonable one. I have a principled stance against 80% of Americans who want to lower drug prices. By the way, there's a poll that just came out specifically from Arizona. 80% of Kyrsten Sinema's constituents say, of course, lower drug prices right now. She looks at them and says, no, I don't want to do that. And don't look at the fact that the reason I don't want to do that is because I'm, to use their language, vacuuming up money from Big Pharma. These are abhorrent, corrupt goons. And I can't help but conclude they know that they're corrupt. They know what they're doing. They have to know what they're doing. Is it worth it? Is it worth it at the end of the day? When these people are 70 years old or 80 years old and they're retired and they're sitting in their rocking chairs, are they going to be comfortable with themselves? Yes, I tanked our last chance at actually doing proper governance to avert the worst effects of climate change. But hey, I got paid, son. Yes, I made sure that drug prices were 50% to 75% higher than they should have to be. Probably Americans die as a result of our drugs costing too much. But you know what? It's fine. Because I took money from Big Pharma. So I got paid. I'm happy. I'm good, son. Listen, you absolutely have to get the money out of politics. We're always going to run into this problem. You're going to have, by the way, the majority of the Democrats are correct on this. The majority of them are like, yes, let's vote for this bill and let's make sure it has those good provisions in it. So listen, I'm fair. I'm objective. I'll tell you the truth. Most of them are doing the right thing. It's just a handful of them who are going to blow the whole fucking thing up. And by the way, in the Senate, it's like 7 or 8 of them who really agree with Manchin and Sinema and they want to strip out all the positive provisions. But we're always going to run into this problem. We're going to run into this problem even when Democrats have a supermajority. There's going to be a handful who are totally bought and owned by corporations. And now, let's talk about the fucking media. Now, I'm telling you the truth about all this. I'm telling you the reality about all this. Print does a decent job, to be fair. When you look at CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, the nightly news, none of them are telling you the reality. In fact, what they're saying is a bunch of moderate centrist senators and congresspeople are currently negotiating the $3.5 trillion bill because they don't like certain provisions. Moderates, centrists, if they're against 80% of the American people, that's not moderate. That's not centrist. That's extremist. They're extremists. They're corporatists. They put the will of corporations above that of their own constituents, above that of the American people. It's the clearest example of corruption I've ever seen. If a story like this came out of the former Soviet Union, U.S. papers would rip it to shreds. They would say, this is disgusting. This is kleptocracy. This is oligarchy. This is corporatocracy. This is insane. You're not looking out for the will of your own people. Are you grotesque? Are you disgusting? What an abdication of your duty and your responsibility. But when it's our senators, the moderates, the centrists, they're not moderates. You know who's a moderate? Every single person who's in favor of cutting drug prices. Every single person who's in favor of having good climate change provisions in this bill. Because they're the moderates, they're the centrists, because they're right smack dab in the middle of mainstream public opinion. And every single poll that's come out on this $3.5 trillion bill, the provisions are wildly popular. Now, why is nobody in the media framing it the right way? Why is nobody calling a spade a spade? Hugo, you can count the number of people in mainstream media who are calling Manchin, Sinema, and these 3 Democrats in the House corrupt on one hand. In fact, probably none of them are calling them corrupt. Why? Are you that cucked by the church of decorum that you can't tell the truth, that you can't call a spade a spade? And the answer is yes. And they're also not that bright, which is why they're hired to be in these positions in the first place. Wolf Blitzer's not going to rock the boat. Wolf Blitzer's not going to tell the truth. He's put there because he's bland. So they're going to tank the entire goddamn thing because they want higher drug prices for you. And again, the media is not calling that extremist. The media is not telling you they're not on your side. They're going to tank the entire thing because they want to strip out the provisions for climate change. I said it before, I'll say it again. Abhorrent, corrupt goons. I generally give people the benefit of the doubt. I generally don't question intentions and motivations. I'm questioning your intentions and your motivations. Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, Kurt Schrader, Scott Peters, Kathleen Rice. I'm questioning it, and you know what? I'm right. And you know I'm right. You know you're doing this for the money. You know why you're doing it. You know that you want to get that pharma money. You want to get that dirty fossil fuel money. You want to, by the way, another big part of this nobody really talks about. What happens when they retire from Congress? Where do they go? Oftentimes they get rewarded and they cash in, son. Barack Obama bailed out Wall Street. No strings attached. They were paying bonuses to the same assholes who bankrupted their companies and tanked the global economy. And then you know what happened? As soon as Obama got out, the first time he was in the news, giving a $400,000 speech to Wall Street. I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I'll kill lower drug prices for the American people if you give me or my shitty family member a job for $500,000 a year or a couple million a year after I'm gonzo. This is how they think. They are corrupt. They are greedy. They are corrupt. They are disgusting. And they're tanking the whole thing. They're tanking the whole thing. Most of the Democrats are doing the right thing on this. And you got just a few who might tank the entire goddamn thing. I don't know what else to say except to give the same advice I've been giving for months on this show. Joe Biden, you better make all of them heel. Well, Kyle, how can he do that? These people, they can make their own minds up. And what do you think? He's a magician? And it's very simple. Carrot or stick approach. Act like a mafia boss. You call him in your office and you say, listen, I'll be your best friend or I'll be your worst enemy. Do you want a position in my administration? Do you want one of your staffers or one of your family members to have a position in my administration? Do you want another military base in West Virginia, Joe Manchin? Do you want more money specifically for infrastructure for your state, Kyrsten Sinema? Whatever. Call them in, say, well, make sure you're fully funded for your reelection campaign. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. I will look out for you if you vote for this bill. If you don't vote for this bill, your career's done, son. And Joe Manchin, oh, would you look at that? Looks like your family's in some legal trouble. Looks like your daughter is part of the EpiPen scandal where we have her caught dead to rights saying, let's come up with a rationalization in order to jack up and price gouge on EpiPens. Illegally colluding with Pfizer. We have the emails. Now, maybe Merrick Garland and my DOJ is going to come after you. And maybe your family's going to go to jail. Unless, of course, you vote for this bill. Then we can work something out. You have dirt on all of them. Use it. You have leverage. Use it. If you're not going to do it, I don't want to hear about a fucking legacy. There is no legacy. LBJ and FDR are turning over in their graves if you don't use this approach. Carrot or stick approach. I'll be your best friend or I'll be your worst enemy. Give them all the reason in the world to support the bill. And if they don't, okay. End them. End them. Because the fact of the matter is, these are the worst of the worst. You guys heard me say before, I honestly believe that corruption should be treated just as seriously as the worst crimes. Rape, murder, assault. Fact of the matter is, just based on what I've seen so far, Manchin, Sinema, these Democrats and more, they should be in prison for life. For life. For tanking our only last shot at real positive change in this country. Our only last shot. Now, by the way, let me pull this up as I'm speaking to you guys right now, because I want to give you all the provisions, and they're all super important. This is what might go down the drain, ladies and gentlemen. This is what might go down the drain if these assholes get their way. All because they're personally greedy and corrupt. Child tax benefit, universal pre-K, paid family and medical leave, tuition-free community college, lower prescription drug prices, dental, hearing, and vision in a Medicare expansion, housing, home care, major climate money, immigration, a lower Medicare age, Obamacare expansion, and of course on the revenue side of this, higher taxes on the rich, higher taxes on corporations, fees on polluters, Medicare negotiates. We're going to lose all this because Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are corrupt and they want to get paid. If they don't do your bidding, you declare war on them. And if you don't, then that's on you. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.